Amongst the pioneers of total football are the likes of Rinus Michels and the Hungarian team of the 1950s. But an often forgotten name that influenced this style of play is Jimmy Hogan. In a managerial career that spanned almost 30 years, he managed teams across Europe, and some describe him as the architect of total football. This is a story of Jimmy Hogan, football's forgotten innovator. Jimmy Hogan was born in Nelson, Lancashire, on the 16th of October 1882. His family had initially wanted him to join the priesthood, but Hogan eventually decided against pursuing this career. Hogan began his playing career as an inside forward with Rochdale, before moving to Burnley soon after. After leaving Burnley following a pay dispute, he went on to play for Nelson, Fulham, Swindon and Bolton Wanderers. It was at Bolton where his career truly began. Hogan had a modest playing career, but still implemented ideas ahead of his time. He cared a great deal more about nutrition and fitness than his fellow players, and often gave his coaches tactical advice, which was often shunted. During his time at Bolton, the Trotters partook in a tour of the Netherlands. During this tour, Bolton defeated Dordrecht by 10-0. Afterwards, Hogan decided to join Dordrecht as a manager, with the intention of teaching him how to play football properly. Hogan was only 28, but the players heeded his wisdom. The amateur players were given a professional approach, with focus on fitness, tactics and ball work. Across England, the ball was usually reserved for use on match days, but Hogan flipped this idea on its head. Hogan's methods impressed, and he was even asked to take charge of the Dutch national team in a friendly in 1910, and Hogan led the Dutch to a 2-1 victory over Germany. Hogan returned to England for one more season at Bolton, helping them to promotion, before he would go abroad again. Having briefly coached Austrian side Wiener Amateur SV, Hogan was recruited by the manager of the Austrian national team, Hugo Meisel, to join his coaching staff. Hogan helped Meisel focus his play on passing the ball on the ground, rather than the commonly used style of hitting the ball hopefully and chasing after it. Hogan made a good impression, despite Austria disappointing in the 1912 Olympics. Hogan was offered a deal to coach the team full-time in preparation for the 1916 Olympics. Hogan would coach the team twice a week, whilst also working with the top sides of Austria. However, his plans were scuppered by the outbreak of the First World War. Hogan initially asked the British authorities if he should return home, but he was told there was no imminent danger. However, soon after, Hogan was arrested as a prisoner of war due to being a foreign national in an enemy state. He was bailed out of captivity by British business owners, whilst his family escaped back to Britain. Hogan was due to be sent to a concentration camp the next day, had he not been released. Hogan spent time working as a tennis coach for the children of those who helped release him, before Hungarian club MTK got word of his coaching prowess. Hogan was appointed as their manager and had a huge task on his hands. The majority of the first team was away fighting in the war, but Hogan saw this as an advantage, as he would work with a group of fresh, young players upon whom he could implement his philosophies. Hogan's impact was immediate, as MTK won the Hungarian League in his first full season, and this was the first of 10 league titles in a row for the side. But when Hogan saw a chance to return home, he leapt at the opportunity. He was able to see his family back in England for the first time since they were separated 4 years earlier, and he looked to work in England so he could settle back home with his family. However, Hogan was branded a traitor for not helping with the war effort. Hogan had no choice but to continue travelling around Europe, whilst English football would stagnate by not learning from his footballing philosophy. Hogan would travel to Switzerland, taking charge of young boys, leading them to a league title in 1920. He would then coach a Swiss national team alongside fellow Englishman Teddy Duckworth and Hungarian Isidor Kirchner in the 1924 Olympics, leading them to a silver medal. He had spells with clubs in Switzerland and Germany before returning to MTK, and he would then reunite with Hugo Meisel at the Austrian national team. He divided his time between being on Meisel's coaching staff and managing Austria Vienne, at a time in which the Austrian side was known as the Wunder team, renowned as one of the best sides in the world. His journey across Europe continued, where he managed Racing Club de Paris before finally returning to England in 1934 to coach Fulham. However, his homecoming was not as he had hoped. Fulham players expressed their displeasure with his methods, and he was sacked 31 games into the job. Once again, Hogan was recruited by Meisel to help coach the Austrian team, and once again, Hogan would receive an Olympic silver medal as Austria lost the final to Italy. Hogan would make another return to England, as he was appointed Aston Villa manager just after the club had experienced their first ever relegation. His brief time at the club was a success, as he got them back to the top flight and also reached the semi-finals of the FA Cup. However, the outbreak of war would once again scupper his progress, and his time in charge ended ungracefully, as he was told that he was sacked whilst in hospital for appendicitis. It would be Hogan's last job as a manager, but it was not the end of his time in football. Following the war, he spent time at Brentford as a coach before joining Celtic's coaching staff. Hogan received little respect during his time in Glasgow, with many mocking his methods. However, right half Tommy Docherty, who would go on to manage Scotland, Chelsea and Manchester United, cited Hogan as a huge influence on him, saying that he was the finest coach the world had ever known, and that Hogan's appointment at Celtic was the best thing to happen to him. Hogan departed Celtic in 1950 and returned to Aston Villa, where he would work as a youth coach and advise manager Eric Houghton. Whilst there, he greatly helped influence the careers of Joe Mercer and Ron Atkinson, who would both go on to win many honours in their respective managerial careers. Around this time, Hogan also witnessed another footballing moment that would not have been possible without him. Hogan attended Wembley in 1953 to watch a friendly between Hungary and England, bringing along some of his Villa youngsters. Hungary thrashed England 6-3, and their style of play was heavily influenced by Hogan, outpassing their hosts completely with their revolutionary style of play. After the game, Sandor Barks, president of the Hungarian Football Federation, paid tribute to Hogan, saying that they played football as Jimmy Hogan had taught them, and that when their football history gets told, the name of Jimmy Hogan should be written in gold letters. Hogan retired in 1959, but would continue to scout for Aston Villa and Burnley, often attending matches for the latter. Jimmy Hogan died in 1974 at the age of 91. Whilst his name may often be overlooked, his influence is plain to see. Having influenced the likes of Ron Atkinson, Joe Mercer, Rinus Michels, Pep Guardiola, and so many more, he is without a doubt one of the most influential figures in the history of the beautiful game.